The lights are already hot when the camera goes live, but no one at home can feel the tension yet. Not really. Not until the moment happens. Not until the smile freezes. What happens when a harmless daytime interview takes a sharp turn, and a Hollywood star realizes she's being pushed into a corner, live, with nowhere to run? Before we go any further, subscribe to Prime Tale, hit like, and drop a comment right now, because what unfolds next is the kind of on-air moment people argue about for years. The applause swells as Margot Robbie steps onto the set, all effortless charm and practiced ease. She waves, that familiar megawatt smile lighting up the studio, the kind that tells the audience she's done this 1,000 times. She takes her seat, crosses her legs, smooths the fabric of her dress. Calm, poised, in control. Across from her, Joy Behar leans back slightly, cue cards resting in her lap, eyes sharp behind a grin that doesn't quite reach them. She's relaxed, too relaxed. This is her house, her table, her rules. The first few minutes glide by like silk. Laughter, light jokes. A clip from Margot's latest film plays on the big screen. The audience claps at all the right moments. Margot laughs along, nodding, saying the expected things. She talks about the joy of acting, the pressure of fame, the surreal feeling of seeing herself on billboards. Inside, she's already counting beats. Interviews are rhythms. You learn them quickly or you drown. Joy tilts her head. You've become such a symbol, she says, voice sweet, almost admiring. Especially for women. Margot smiles. That's kind of you. But symbols come with responsibility. Joy continues, tapping her card with a finger. Tap, tap. And some people say you've been selective about which issues you speak on. There it is. The shift. It's subtle, but Margot feels it immediately, like a draft in a sealed room. I think everyone chooses causes that feel personal to them, Margot replies carefully. Neutral. Safe. Joy nods, but she's already leaning forward. Sure. But when you play roles that claim to empower women, don't you think staying silent on certain topics sends a message too? The audience murmurs. A producer off-camera straightens in their chair. Margot blinks once. She keeps smiling, but it's thinner now, stretched tighter across her face. I don't think it's fair to expect any one person to speak on everything. Joy chuckles. I'm not saying everything, she says lightly. Just the big things. The laugh track doesn't come in this time. Margot shifts in her seat. She can feel the heat of the lights on her skin, the weight of millions of eyes pressing in from beyond the lens. This isn't a conversation anymore. It's a test. What exactly do you mean? Margot asks, voice still even, still polite. Joy doesn't answer right away. She glances at the audience, then back at Margot. Well, some critics feel you're comfortable taking praise for being progressive, without actually taking risks when it counts. A sharp intake of breath ripples through the crowd. Margot's smile finally flickers. Just for a second. Long enough for the cameras to catch it. That's a pretty loaded statement, she says. Joy raises her eyebrows. Is it? The silence stretches. Somewhere backstage, someone mouths, oh no. Margot's fingers curl slightly against her knee. She uncrosses her legs, sits straighter. This is no longer a casual chat. It's a confrontation disguised as curiosity. I've taken plenty of risks, Margot says. Just not always the ones people demand from me. Joy leans back again, crossing her arms. Some would argue that's convenient. The word lands heavy. Convenient. The audience reacts now, soft gasps, a few uncomfortable laughs that die quickly. One of the co-hosts shifts, clearly debating whether to jump in. No one does. Margot's eyes lock onto Joy's. The warmth is gone. What replaces it is something sharper. Controlled. Awake. You know, Margot says slowly. It's interesting how often women are asked to justify their choices in ways men never are. Applause breaks out, scattered but real. Joy smiles again, but this time there's an edge. Or maybe people just want authenticity. Margot exhales through her nose. She can feel her heartbeat in her ears now. The camera cuts to a close-up, too close. Every micro-expression magnified. Authenticity doesn't mean performing activism on demand, Margot replies. It means doing the work in ways that matter, even when it's not visible. Joy tilts her head. That sounds nice. But the audience at home might be wondering, how would we know? The room tightens. The applause stops. Even the air feels heavier. Margot pauses. A long pause. Long enough that a producer whispers urgently off camera. long enough that viewers lean closer to their screens. When she speaks again, her voice is calm, but there's steel underneath. Because, she says, I don't owe proof of my values to anyone sitting across from me at a table. The audience erupts. This time, it's loud. Joy opens her mouth, then closes it. Just for a beat. The moment hangs there, electric, unresolved. Margot keeps her gaze steady, unblinking. She's no longer smiling. And everyone watching knows, this interview has crossed a line, and there's no going back now. The real reaction hasn't even begun. The applause fades, but the tension doesn't. It clings to the room like static, crackling in the silence that follows Margot's words. Joy Behar adjusts in her chair, a practiced motion meant to reclaim control, but something has shifted. Everyone feels it. The audience. The crew. Even the cameras seem hesitant, lingering just a half-second longer on Margot's face. Joy clears her throat. I didn't mean to imply you owe anyone anything, she says, smiling again, softer now. We're just having a conversation. Margot nods once. A short nod. Polite. Final. Conversations go both ways. There's a ripple of reaction from the crowd. A few claps. A few murmurs. Someone laughs nervously, then stops when no one joins in. One of the co-hosts leans forward, trying to steer the ship back to calmer waters. Margot, your career choices have been fascinating lately. Joy interrupts without turning her head. But this is about career choices, she says. Isn't it? Margot's jaw tightens. It's subtle, almost imperceptible, but the camera catches it. She inhales slowly, the way people do when they are deciding whether to fight or walk away. Yes, Margot replies. It is. And I stand by mine. Joy's fingers drum lightly against the table. Tap, 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 including the choice to stay quiet when people expect leadership from someone with your platform. There it is again. The push. Firmer this time. Less disguised. Margot lets out a quiet breath, almost a laugh, but there's no humor in it. You keep using the word quiet, she says. That's interesting. Joy tilts her head. Why? Because not performing something publicly doesn't mean it doesn't exist, Margot says. It just means you don't get to see it. The audience applauds, louder now. Joy waits it out, lips pressed together. When the clapping dies down, she shrugs. Visibility matters, she says. Especially when young women are watching. Margot turns slightly toward the crowd, then back to Joy. And what are they learning right now, she asks. That women have to constantly prove they're enough for someone else's standards. A murmur sweeps through the studio. This time it's not just surprise, it's recognition. Joy's smile fades a notch. I think they are learning that influence comes with responsibility. Margot's eyes flash. And I think they are learning that women are still interrogated for how they use their influence, no matter what they do. The co-host beside Joy opens her mouth, closes it again. The producer off-camera signals frantically, but the conversation has slipped the leash. Joy folds her arms. You seem defensive. Margot doesn't hesitate. I'm responding. The difference hangs heavy between them. Joy leans forward, voice lower now, more serious. Let me ask you something directly, she says. Do you believe celebrities should speak up more on major social issues? Margot holds her gaze. This is the trap. Simple question, complicated consequences. I believe, Margot says slowly, that people should speak when they are informed, committed, and ready to stand behind what they say, long after the cameras are gone. Joy nods. And are you? A collective gasp. Someone in the audience whispers, Oh my God. Margot freezes for half a second. Not because she doesn't have an answer, but because she realizes exactly what this moment has become. This isn't about discussion. It's about pressure. About spectacle. Yes, Margot says firmly. I am. Joy raises an eyebrow. Then why not say more? Margot's voice hardens. Because saying more for the sake of satisfying someone else's expectations isn't honesty. It's performance. Applause explodes, cutting Joy off before she can respond. The camera cuts to the audience, faces split between shock, excitement, and pure disbelief. This is not daytime television anymore. This is something else. Joy waits until the noise dies down, then laughs lightly. Too lightly. Well, she says, that's one way to look at it. Margot doesn't laugh back. You know, Joy continues, some people might say you're enjoying the benefits of being seen as progressive without wanting the discomfort that comes with it. The words land like a slap. Margot leans forward now, mirroring Joy's posture. Eye to eye. No distance. Discomfort, she says quietly, looks different depending on where you're standing. The room goes still. For some people, Margot continues, it's asking tough questions on TV. For others, it's doing the work quietly, consistently, without applause. Joy's mouth tightens. So you think this is applause-seeking? I think, Margot says, choosing each word carefully, that turning personal values into public trials can cross a line. The audience reacts again, this time with a mix of claps and uneasy murmurs. One co-host finally steps in, voice strained. Okay, let's. Joy raises a hand. No, it's fine, she says. I'm just surprised by how sensitive this seems to be. Margot's eyes narrow. The last trace of softness disappears. Calling someone sensitive, she says, is often how people avoid listening. A sharp ooh ripples through the crowd. Joy exhales, clearly irritated now. I'm listening. Then hear this, Margot says, her voice steady but unmistakably firm. I don't need to perform my conscience to earn respect. Silence. Total. Absolute. The camera cuts to Joy. For the first time, she looks unsure. Just a flicker. Just a crack. She opens her mouth, searching for a response that won't make this worse. But it's already worse. And everyone watching knows the calm has officially broken. The silence doesn't break on its own. It has to be cut. A producer's voice whispers urgently off camera, unheard by viewers but felt in the sudden movement around the table. A co-host clears her throat. Another shuffles papers that no one plans to read. The show is still live, still rolling, but the rules have changed. Joy Behar exhales and forces a smile, the kind built over decades of television survival. Well, she says lightly, this clearly struck a nerve. The audience reacts immediately, some laughter, sharp and uncomfortable, others groaning under their breath. Margot doesn't move. Her eyes stay locked on Joy, steady, unblinking. There's no anger there now. Just resolve. A nerve. Margot repeats quietly. Or a boundary. That lands harder than anything before it. Joy's smile tightens. We're just asking questions. Margot nods once. And I'm answering. One of the co-hosts finally jumps in, voice overly bright. Margot, your new film explores identity, Anne. Joy cuts her off again. But this is about identity, she says. Public identity. And how it's shaped. The crowd reacts, half of them leaning forward, the other half sinking back into their seats. No one knows who to root for anymore. Or maybe they do, and that's what scares the room. Margot turns slightly, addressing the table instead of just Joy now. Public identity, she says, is something other people build around you. Private values are what you actually live by. Joy raises an eyebrow. And you don't think the public has a right to question that? Margot's lips part, then close. She inhales slowly. This time, when she speaks, her voice is softer, but somehow more dangerous. I think the public has a right to question systems, she says. Power. Institutions. I don't think they are entitled to personal audits from individuals just because they are visible. A wave of applause crashes through the studio. Louder than before. Sustained. Joy waits it out, arms folded now, posture defensive. When the clapping fades, she leans forward again, voice edged with frustration. You're very articulate, she says. But some people might hear this and think it's just a polished way of dodging. Margot's eyes flicker, not with hurt, but recognition. She's seen this tactic before. Dodging would be pretending this conversation isn't happening, Margot replies. I'm sitting right here. Joy laughs, short and sharp. Fair enough. The producer signals again. Wrap it up, move on. But the train has no brakes now. You know, Joy says, lowering her voice, when women before you fought to be heard, they didn't have the luxury of staying quiet. The room inhales collectively. Margot stiffens. This one hits deeper. You can see it in her shoulders, in the way her fingers press into the edge of the table. Please don't frame this as ingratitude, Margot says, carefully. I'm standing on their shoulders. I know that. Then why not speak louder? Joy presses. Margot's gaze hardens. Because volume doesn't equal impact. The audience breaks again, this time split cleanly down the middle. Applause battles murmurs. A few boos sneak in, quickly drowned out by clapping. The tension becomes almost physical. Joy shakes her head. That sounds like something people say when they don't want to be challenged. Margot leans forward, closing the space between them. Her voice drops just enough that everyone has to listen. I'm being challenged right now, she says. Publicly. Aggressively. On your terms. The words hang there, undeniable. Joy opens her mouth, then pauses. For the first time, she seems unsure which direction leads out of this without making it worse. One of the co-hosts tries again. Okay, maybe we. Joy waves her off, eyes still on Margot. So what would you have us do? She asks. Never ask celebrities hard questions. Margot shakes her head slowly. Ask hard questions, she says. Just don't confuse confrontation with insight. A sharp wow ripples through the crowd. Joy scoffs. That's your opinion. Yes, Margot says. And I'm allowed to have it without being labeled evasive or ungrateful. The studio feels smaller now. Claustrophobic. The audience senses it too. This is no longer entertainment. It's a collision of generations, expectations, and power. Joy leans back, crossing her arms again. I think you're underestimating how much people look to you. Margot straightens. And I think you're underestimating how exhausting it is to be looked at that way. A beat. 2. 3. That lands. Joy's expression softens for just a moment, just enough to reveal that something got through. But then the walls go back up. Well, she says briskly, we can agree to disagree. Margot nods. We can. But the tone says something else entirely. The director's countdown flashes silently from the side of the camera. 30 seconds. Wrap it. Joy forces a laugh. This is why live TV is always interesting. The audience laughs with her, relieved to have permission to breathe again. Margot offers a small, composed smile for the camera, but it doesn't reach her eyes. As the segment finally limps toward its end, everyone knows what just happened will not stay on this set. It won't fade with the applause. It won't be forgotten in the next segment. This wasn't a disagreement. It was a line drawn, live, unmistakable, and impossible to edit out. And the fallout is coming. The camera's cut away, but the moment doesn't end. It mutates. Applause swells as the show moves on, a reflex more than a reaction. Margot rises from her chair when the segment wraps, thanking the co-hosts with practiced politeness. Joy offers a quick smile, tight, professional, unreadable. They exchange a few words no microphone catches. Whatever is said, it doesn't soften anything. Backstage, the air hums. Assistants whisper. Producers replay the last 5 minutes on monitors, eyes darting between screens and phones already vibrating with alerts. Someone mutters, it's trending. Someone else says, which clip? The answer comes fast, all of them. Margot walks down the corridor, heels clicking, shoulders squared. She exhales for the first time since sitting down. Her publicist keeps pace, speaking in low tones about statements and schedules and not feeding the fire. Margot nods, but her face is calm now, resolved. She knows what she said. She knows why she said it. That's enough. On the other side of the building, Joy adjusts her jacket, the studio lights finally off her. A producer asks if she's okay. I'm fine, she says, waving it off. It's live TV. But even she knows this wasn't just live TV. This was a spark. Within minutes, clips flood social media. Tight edits, dramatic captions, slowed down pauses with bold text flashing. A boundary. Performing activism. I don't owe proof. The comments come in waves. Applause emojis collide with angry threads. Think pieces begin forming before the show even finishes airing on the West Coast. Fans dissect Margot's expressions frame by frame. Supporters praise her composure, her refusal to play along, her insistence on boundaries. Critics accuse her of dodging, of privilege, of hiding behind eloquence. Hashtags split cleanly down the middle, each side convinced the other missed the point entirely. Media outlets jump in fast. Headlines sharpen the edges. Tension explodes on daytime TV. When questions cross the line. A star pushes back, live. Panels debate tone. Op-eds argue intent. Everyone has a take. The next morning, Joy's remarks are replayed on morning radio shows, late-night monologues, podcasts hungry for controversy. Some hosts applaud her for asking hard questions. Others question the framing, the pressure, the choice to turn a personal line of inquiry into a public trial. Joy listens to none of it directly, but the noise reaches her anyway. It always does. Margot releases a brief statement, measured, calm, unbothered. She thanks the show for the invitation. She reiterates her belief in thoughtful engagement over performative spectacle. No apologies. No clarifications. just a line drawn in ink. The audience reaction grows louder as the day stretches on. Fans share personal stories about being expected to explain themselves on demand. Others argue that visibility demands accountability. The conversation spreads beyond Margot and Joy, beyond the show itself. It becomes about pressure and platforms, about who gets questioned and how, about the thin line between accountability and ambush. By evening, the clip has millions of views. And then something unexpected happens. In a quiet corner of the internet, a long thread gains traction, not defending, not condemning, just unpacking. It talks about boundaries, about generational expectations, about the cost of constant scrutiny. It ends with a simple sentence that gets shared more than any hot take that day. You can ask hard questions without making someone prove their worth. The next week, when Margot steps onto another set, the questions are different. Still sharp, still thoughtful, but the tone has shifted. A lesson, perhaps, not learned by everyone, but learned by enough. As for Joy, she returns to her table with the same confidence she's always had. She jokes about the unpredictability of live TV. She defends the importance of tough conversations. She doesn't walk anything back. She doesn't need to. The debate is already bigger than either of them now. That's the thing about moments like this. They don't belong to the people inside them for very long. They belong to the audience, to the viewers who watched a smile freeze, to the ones who felt the room tighten, to those who saw a boundary named out loud, live, with no rehearsal and no safety net. So now it's your turn. Did Joy push too far? Or did Margot refuse a necessary conversation? Was it accountability? Or was it pressure disguised as curiosity? Tell us what you think in the comments. Share this story with someone who needs to see it. And if you want more explosive, cinematic moments where live TV goes off script, subscribe to Prime Tale, because the next confrontation is always just one question away.